There's only one guy that I could look at right now that I think is a culture shifter guy, and I think that is Brian Flores. Right? I think he would set a tone and attitude to this team that would help propel them forward.
Going at Brian Flores, I agree with you. I think Brian Flores is a culture shifter, and I think that he is a guy that could change the tone of the Cincinnati Bengals. And I do agree that it shouldn't be a focus of offensive or defensive-minded guys. But a lot of times when you look at guys and teams that have won the Super Bowl and teams that have changed their head coaches, you go look at the Denver Broncos when they brought in Peyton Manning, they brought in John Fox. You go look at some of these different head coaches that have won at the highest of levels, and it's been a change. It's you bring in a defensive-minded guy, and it works. John Fox came into a Denver Broncos team that was terrible on defense, and he completely overhauled it, and it worked. Mm-hmm. So I think the Brian Flores name is interesting, and where I settle on right now, as it currently stands on November 17th, I would want somebody who's had head coaching experience somewhere. Yeah. That's where I settle on. And that's where the names of Brian Flores intrigues me.
I think that Brian Flores to me is a very attractive name. I look at the job that he did with Miami, and just to remind y'all, because memory will make y'all believe that Brian Flores was a terrible head coach. He wasn't, guys, at all. So I want to just go off of this. So his first year as the Dolphins head coach, they went 5-11. They then proceeded to go 10-6, finishing second in the AFC East. That year, the AFC was ultra competitive. They just didn't make the playoffs. And then it was followed up by a 9-8 record, where they finished third in the AFC. Again, AFC has been very competitive. The reason, just to remind everybody, sort of what happened with Brian Flores is he filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL, the Giants, Denver Broncos, and Dolphins organization, basically alleging racial discrimination. There was a text message he received from Bill Belichick that basically corroborated that he messaged him and let him know, like, hey, this team has no interest in actually hiring you. They're pretty much just interviewing you to fill the Rooney Rule. That was the issue. What ended in Miami, and I don't know if people know exactly what sort of took place in Miami, but basically Stephen Ross had was pressuring Brian Flores in a lawsuit he won, by the way, to lose games, essentially. I want to read the exact thing. The lawsuit alleges that during Flores' tenure with the Dolphins, team owner Stephen Ross had pressured him to lose games deliberately, offering him $100,000 for each game he lost in order for Dolphins to get better draft picks for the following season and to tamper with quarterbacks before free agency. Stephen Ross had allegedly met with Tom Brady on his boat because he had hopes to get Tom Brady to join the Miami Dolphins. These reports were verified. Brian Flores basically just did not basically succumb to what Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, was asking of him. So pretty much he was a guy that really tried to win in Miami and change the culture. But Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, had other prerogatives. He had a completely different mission than Brian Flores. He wanted bigger names like Tom Brady. He wanted to lose out and get draft picks. And for me, I can't fault Brian Flores for that, especially when everything that he's alleging has been proven. Stephen Ross got suspended, actually, for this. And I think the Dolphins were fined as well. And on top of that, the text messages about Brian Flores only being an interview mascot, essentially, were true. All those stuff came out, and then he got blackballed, essentially, because you didn't play in the boys club, essentially. So you're blackballed by the league. That's why Brian Flores is not a head coach, guys. It has nothing to do with his capabilities. It's everything to do with how he outed owner Stephen Ross, and other owners are like, what if you did something like that to me? That shows you some of these owners in the National Football League don't like to be held to the same standard or same accountability. Everybody's very murmur on why Brian Flores is not, always considered as a head coaching candidate. But the truth of the matter is, he's not being considered because he has a genuine good conscience and he wanted to do right by the Miami Dolphins. And he was actually changing the culture. 10-6, 9-8, you get fired after that. And then since then, we see what's going on with the Dolphins. For me, at the end of the day, I think that Brian Flores makes a lot of sense.
The place that it all goes down. Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well, you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Shout out Young Swish.